Hello there. I am so glad that you are here tonight because I absolutely love doing Fate Magazine Radio. And so here we are. And tonight, my guest is delayed and my scheduled guest is delayed. However, I have one of my favorite people to talk to. We have so many things in common. And he's my producer, he's my good friend, and he is coming to the Eureka Springs UFO Conference too. So, Carl Albertson, hey,
Hey, Kat.
you know what? You are so amazing because it doesn't matter what we've got scheduled. And, it's really funny because when I used to have technical issues of my own, when I was producing myself, people
Right.
were like, oh, sure, she does, whatever. I really do, don't I?
Yes, you do. They don't know what goes on before the show.
They don't. But, I am kind of sunburnt, so y'all are just going to have to point and laugh. So we had a baseball tournament yesterday.
What we're going to
But
have to do one of these days is I'm going to
what?
have to open up another StreamYard and put record when we're having technical issues and make a blooper reel to show. People would laugh like
They
crazy.
would. Well, except that because I have ADHD and we've just recently found that out, but I've handled this one very well. But, you know, building skills, guys, building skills. You can cope with anything as long as you're working on your skill sets for it, right?
Right.
But when when my energy starts to get when things start to get wiggy, my energy starts to get wiggy because I am an energy worker, and sometimes I've always been afraid it was going to turn into like the movie Carrie, where I just get mad one day and just whoop. But I control that. I don't do that. But because it's a choice, it's a good thing. But it's really interesting because I would never, before I started dealing with electronics as much, really believed that. But it's it's a true, honest to God, frustrating moment when things go awry. And
Yeah.
you just sit back there and you're like, yep, happening again.
Oh, I know because electronics, especially when we're doing some type of paranormal or UFO shows, there's always a technical issue before, during the show, even.
Yes.
We have seen it happen so many times.
Well, and it happens. I mean, it's not just this show. I mean, it's every show that deals in this realm. And, you know, Boris Crawford, who's supposed to be here tonight, and I'm still hoping he's going to make it. I don't know what's going on. But I hope that, because y'all will love him. He is ever since I've been going, he's been the MC at the Ozark Mountain UFO Conference. He's so good with people. And he first saw a craft land when he was 10. And so he's been fascinated by the topic. And he was actually involved in MUFON. He was a state director. And he's written some really good papers too. So he's a great guest. He's a great person. So it'll be fun. But it doesn't matter if it's an ET show or a ghost show because you and I had one of the most bizarre paranormal experiences in a conversation that I've ever had. And I mean, even with recorders going and everything happening, it wasn't as this was probably the most interesting. And it
Yeah.
was after the show when we were doing the research on what we were given, it was all true. It all
Yeah.
matched. And
That
both of us
that
were
was the
flipped out by
amazing
that.
part. If people go back and watch that show, it was what, 3 weeks ago?
Three
I
weeks
think
ago.
what, yeah, 3 weeks ago. When we did the show, the first 25 minutes, we were just talking, especially about the guitars and about my food truck and all
Yes.
that. Then we brought out the phones. Hi, Lorraine, Jeremy. Jeremy, you
Hey.
got to listen to this because that
Yes.
night we did that. That you guys were doing something on things and we couldn't do it. You
Yep.
need to go to the Bill of Rights Network and look at the fake magazine show where I was on and listen to it. But anyway, we brought out the phone and showed Echo Box because you wanted to see how it ran.
Yeah. You were helping me set mine up.
Right. And we turned them on and heard a couple of things, nothing major, right? Just like he was doing an
You start
investigation.
with.
So I shut mine off. Kat shut hers off. I even shut my phone off. And then we had
I didn't shut my phone off, but I shut the
the
echo box
dowsing
down.
rods and everything. Was showing how I use them and point them downward
Hmm.
and stuff. So as soon as we was doing that, I said, let's talk about the paranormal and get
Yes.
into it. And we heard a voice say, what? Why? And I'm going, I Cat, did you hear that? Did the people in the chat room hear that, and everything? And I was trying to figure out. I didn't have any other browsers open except StreamYard. I was
Yeah.
making sure Kat had her Echo Box off, all this stuff. Nothing else was
I actually
going on.
turned my phone off because I
And
had
at the,
already closed out and cleared Echo Box, but I
right.
went ahead and turned my phone off.
But then it started saying, find Jackson. It said two words. Now, these words were crystal clear.
Yes, they
I
were.
mean, the whole conversation that night was crystal clear, just like me and Kat
Yes.
talking and everything. And we're sitting there. So we started asking questions. Well, at the same time, my wife is in the bedroom. It was 3 weeks ago, Jeremy,
3 weeks.
on a Sunday night. Go back and check it and listen to the show because the
It
reactions
was
we
just
were
the
getting,
most,
yeah, it was bizarre because my
well,
wife was in the bedroom and everybody
yes.
knows her son passed away here a few years ago at 37 years old, right? And everything. And she heard, hi, mom, in the bedroom. At the same time, this is going on in our
Yes.
podcast out in the front part. And not only that, we got words. We heard a knock on a door, a
Yes.
solid wood door.
Yes.
I do not have a solid wood door in this house.
My front door is, and
You're right,
that's
but
it.
there was
Yeah.
nobody there.
No, David
It,
was out.
at the same time, there were sirens. I looked outside, went to the door. There was no sirens anywhere around.
Mm.
But we heard burn, fire. Then we got
Jackson.
names. Then we
Yes.
got names. And we got years. And at
Yes.
one point it said 1847. So we both went Civil War, right?
Right.
But then it came and said 1947. And it said
And
Roswell.
yes.
And that's when I asked, is this a ghost or an alien?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it was going back and forth. But
Because we both made that leap.
yeah. And
Because I'm just like, okay, this is Roswell. But then when they were talking about redcoats, no, it was that the,
no, it's with me on it, Jeremy.
yeah,
I'll tell you what date it was on there real quick. Let me do
thank you.
something here.
He's going into
And
the past shows.
yeah, I'll go into past shows and give you the exact date and which one. It was on the February 22nd. So it was almost a month ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll say Carl Albertson on Fake Magazine with Cat and
Yes.
stuff. But
But
I
that was the
mean,
most,
to give you an idea, folks, talk to them a little bit, Kat. I'm going to bring something up and show them.
okay.
Okay.
But no,
I'll bring
it
part of
really,
that show up and show them
okay.
exactly what was going on and go through it.
Well, You know,
Okay,
to
let's
start
see.
with, though, we were getting the redcoats, right? You know, need need Jackson. What? How did?
Yeah, red coat. And remember, I
Yeah,
looked that up.
and they were Southern soldiers, and then there was
They were used
they
by the
they had a
uh,
name, but they were based in Georgia, and it was
right.
absolutely the most bizarre thing because I'm sitting there thinking redcoats, Georgia. Well, they were a Georgia unit, and I'm like, well, they should have sent them because they would have kicked everybody's butt. So it was in a well by Jackson.
Are you
I
kidding
mean,
me?
I can't remember all of the verbiage because I was tripping as we were doing this, and Carl's memory is much better than mine with that. But it was just the most bizarre string of circumstances. So we're looking online as we're doing the show, and we find the redcoats. Then we find William. What was his last name? Do you remember?
William Smith.
Yes. We found him in Roswell, Georgia. And as we're going through and we're fact checking and information checking, then it was just all the way through. Everything was checking out. And meanwhile, Tammy's getting knocks in the bedroom. So she comes out. Then there's knocks at the door because you got knocks at your door, right? Wasn't it? Wasn't
Right.
it knocking on your front door?
Yeah.
And then EMS sirens. And then, I mean, and we found, you know, people that matched everything that was being said. And that does not happen very often. I mean, that doesn't happen very often when you're on site in a location
Right.
getting
Oh,
information. Did you find it?
oh, okay.
He's bringing it
We're
up,
going to bring it
guys.
up. I'm going to share it up on one
What?
of his emblems. Right. Yeah, Jeremy, I know.
I
And
have glasses somewhere. You're going to have to read to me.
I will. And I'll show you. Now, here's one we're talking signed by Katie Stafford.
Oh.
That was made. Let's get into where, okay? This,
I mean,
and
they
then
did. They said your name.
I'll get my phone on because you don't use EchoBox 3.
I've never seen you befuddled. Andy's muted. I've never seen you so
That's all
befuddled.
right. Tammy just came in. She was back in the back part of the house and heard a woman's voice. It wasn't you.
Oh my goodness, how are y'all doing that?
I don't
Are you
know.
special?
They think
I
it's
mean-
cool because listen, can you hear? Well, I'm going to tell you.
There was a siren. Okay.
Yep.
You don't have the squad out down there, do you?
No.
Yeah, I'm worried that the squad's there.
I'm double checking everything to make sure I don't have another browser open. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I am Cat. George,
See, there it is. Talking Georgia.
I'm setting this down on my computer because
Okay.
I'll put it on the other side so it'll point toward my mic.
Jeremy's getting it downloaded to watch it
So,
off your
Yeah.
is this the coolest thing ever?
It's
It was the
different, I'll
coolest
put it
thing
that
ever.
way.
I
I've
mean,
had
really,
some strange things happen with Echo.
She didn't say it here. There's no voice coming out that says that here.
Well, just stop and think. Okay, all they're saying is what and why, what and why, and then I heard a siren.
Yeah.
There's nothing going on outside, so I know it's not out there.
I don't have anything going on.
Go like that. It makes my mind start thinking. What's doing this?
Well,
What's doing this? What's doing
yeah.
this?
And I mean, there's no television on. The dogs are asleep. There's
The folks
nothing
who can
happening in
see
here.
how stunned we
Carl.
were. Yes,
So,
yes, I'm here. Who's talking to me? It said my name.
that was two voices.
I don't know, folks.
Who's talking to Carl? Did you talk to Tammy too? The only thing electrical I have going is a lamp.
It was, Jeremy. It was too loud. Jeremy said that was too loud a
Yeah, that
siren
was
coming from
Jeremy.
outside.
Let me get this stopped here a second.
The wildest thing is
Yeah.
that
That was
we
too
have
loud to
had,
be outside.
yeah, but we have had, I mean, not during a show, but I've had neighbors who had to have an ambulance called, and one of them had a house fire. Neither ambulance or fire truck could be really heard like that inside. And these are really pretty curtains, but they're really dense and they're soundproofing and darkening curtains too. So it's, I was pretty positive it wasn't here, but I still checked because it wasn't at his house. And we have never, and I've done paranormal experience for 10 years, which does get paranormal activity in the shows sometimes. And I've done Fate for 5. Same thing happens on occasion, right? But I have never, ever had anything like this show. And it gets weirder from that point. I mean, this was just the beginning of the show. This was not even the weird stuff, right? So
right.
It just kept on and kept on building.
But what was amazing was it was the clearest English that we've ever heard.
Yes.
I mean, it was like the person was right in the background of this show talking to us.
Well, it's like they had their own mic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were part of the show.
Yeah.
And it was from both ends, which was very strange.
I mean, you'll listen, as you guys listen to the show, you'll hear me say, this couldn't even been staged. Because of our reactions and the questions we asked.
Well, and the answers, because we got specific answers. And the weirdest part was that they were very specific answers. So it was just, Roswell, Jackson, murder. We got murder. We got murder so many times.
Remember, we had Chains and we had Burns.
Yes.
Burns.
So we were assuming that it was Civil War era but the Redcoats were pre-Civil War, right?
They were the Civil War. They were war in the Civil War in certain companies as the buglers and cannon people.
Mm-hmm.
But as you go on to find out, okay, Jeremy, as you find out,
and be safe.
Yeah, big safe. But in the line story, and you find out the name that we're looking for, and look it up, you'll find out who raided the plantation.
Yeah.
And I'll guarantee you there were redcoats in that too.
Hi, Nikki.
I mean, it was with all, I mean, in that hour and a half show like that we did, with the information we collected,
Yes,
and within 20 minutes after the show, we had the answers.
we did.
What investigation can you go on to and go home? You're already home. That's hours later, right? Then you got to
Yeah.
listen to all of it and try to decipher and figure things out and look it up. We did it with all the information that was given to us on that show.
And I didn't have to go back because I was taking notes with everything that we were getting.
Yeah,
So after we went off the air, I'm going through doing, Googling everything, and you are too. And, so we're getting it. We are getting what was happening. And I was so blown away because, I mean, we're both paranormal investigators, and I've been on investigations that, you know, the evidence was great. Not often that great like we got in a flippin' show.
well, not even in a show. How many EVPs could have got that clear of language?
Yes. And the wildest part was that it wasn't I did not look because to see which one of our feeds it was coming through. There was a lot coming through yours, but there was a lot coming through mine too. So it was just like that was so weird.
It was. It
And
it was every paranormal person's.
dream.
It was.
It
To be
was.
sitting there and not even, well, how many times have you been on an investigation and sat down before you set the equipment up and you hear something?
All the time.
Okay.
All the time. If there's not
This was
equipment,
the
everything's
exact
happening.
same thing, only one thing different. We were doing a live podcast and
Yes.
it caught it.
Yes.
And it just wasn't a one time deal.
No.
This person, this spirit person, whatever it was, talked for over an hour.
Yep.
And when we ended the show and said goodnight to everybody, it went silent.
Yes. Nothing else came through after we went off the air, and we were still connected in this way.
Right.
We just weren't
We was
broadcasting.
in the, at the end of the show, we were still talking on our StreamYard after the show ends like we always do. We were there for over an hour discussing it and looking stuff up.
Yeah, looking the
And
stuff up, we were doing the
it
work.
never came through again.
Mm-mm. Nope. I guess he gave us the information. He was done with us.
He was. But what's really amazing, folks, is I'm in Northwest Missouri. Cat's in Alabama.
Yeah.
So this spirit, and from what we got on it, the spirit was from Georgia.
Yes. Where I used to live, actually.
Right. But to come from Georgia, but to come through my computer
Mhm.
and to make the noises in the house.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Well, and they were strong noises because I didn't hear the one in the bedroom. I heard the one in the front of the house, the knock.
Mm-hmm.
And that got Tammy's attention too. Because she stayed in the front of the house.
Yeah. I mean,
I would have too.
it was, we'll put it this way. We're doing the same type of show and nothing's coming through.
Yeah.
That'll probably be the one and only time it ever happens.
Yeah.
But as they always said, it was caught on camera.
Yes.
It was caught on audio
Yeah.
and camera.
Well,
But
I mean, it was caught on camera
yeah,
because we were live. So I think our reactions were probably at least as entertaining.
yeah, our
But
reactions are more comical than, and it caught us off guard.
well, yeah.
We weren't doing an investigation. We were just chit chatting and showing the echo box, the dowsing rods, cigar box guitars, talking about the food truck,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden this thing just why
Lit
and why.
up. It just lit up.
Now, what would have happened if we wouldn't, if I wouldn't have commented on the why and the what? Would that entity would have kept talking?
Yeah.
We don't know. Hey,
I
you got a guest,
I do have a guest.
so introduce him.
I will. This is Forrest Crawford. He is the MC since I've been going, and since a lot of people have been going for the Ozark Mountain UFO Conference. He is a former MUFON state investigator or state director, and he's a genuinely nice man. So we're going to tell him what we've been talking about, and then we're going to let him tell us more about him because he'll like this. So, hey, Forrest.
Hey, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. I don't even know what to say.
You were
No,
just
no
fine. I'm
excuse
just
would
glad
be
to
good.
see you. And you're going to love what we've been talking about while we've been waiting. And I want you to meet my producer and friend, Carl Albertson.
Hi,
Carl.
Forrest.
Nice to meet
You'll
you.
see him at the conference. He's going to be producing while I'm doing some interviews there. And so we did not run out of things to talk about while we waited for you because you are so worth the wait.
Oh,
And
you're being too nice.
well, Carl and I did a show a couple of weeks ago.
About a month
And,
ago. About a month ago.
About a month ago. And we actually had, there's an app called EchoVox that you use in ghost hunting. And I have never had mine set up appropriately. So Carl was showing me how to do that. And that was just part of the show. We were, showing people stuff like that. And we started getting communication, really specific, really good communication. Started with somebody knocking on
There, you're back.
It was ghosty stuff. It was pretty cool. So, but one thing that you will never have to do with me is you will never have to apologize because I'm just thrilled to get to talk to you, Forrest. So,
Well, thank you. You're being extremely nice. I feel so terrible that I didn't get in here until now.
well,
That's all right.
you know what? Stuff happens.
I would
It's
use a
all
different
good.
word, but yes, it's the same. It's the same idea.
Well, that's true. Depends on the scenario to which one I use. So,
Okay,
you're
I'll
You're
let
not
you
going
do
to you're not going to hurt my feelings, but I know we're on the air, so
Right. Dad, I'll let you do the show with Forrest.
oh, well, thank you. Thank you for talking about that because people need to know that happened. I think it's so cool.
Right. We'll do it again.
Yes, we will. So, hey, Forrest,
Hey,
how are you?
I'm very good. I'm very good.
Good.
So, what can we talk about tonight?
Well, I tell you what, I have so many things because when I was reading and things that I've learned about you over time, it's hey Nikki, it's just been you've had quite a ride. And
Well, yeah,
when
that's true.
when I saw that oh my word, her name escapes me. You did the Cape Girardeau stuff, didn't you?
Cape Girardeau.
Is that the right name?
Well, you talking about the crash that happened in Cape Girardeau?
Yes, where Margaret's, isn't her name Margaret?
Yeah, Margie.
Whose dad was the clergy and was out helping with that.
Well, yeah, and Debbie Ziegenmeyer, Margie Kay. Are you talking about the Piedmont Festival that they've been having the last couple of years?
No, I'm talking about oh, I've got her card here. But she was a very older lady, and where there was one of the first crashes that they had bodies, and her father was a minister and I think physician. Margaret.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to.
Let me. because it was one of the first with bodies retrieved. So I first saw her speak at the UFO Congress, the year that Jeremy came out with his film that Chase and Richard and Mark D'Antonio and everybody were part of. Let's see.
Abriel, thank you.
Yes, you look great.
I was switching to my laptop instead of my phone, so it would be better.
Okay.
So anyway, on the Cape Girardeau crash, I didn't have anything to do with investigating that crash originally. It happened a really long time ago.
Well, it did happen a really long time ago, but I knew that you had interest in it.
Oh, yeah. Well, sure. Live in the area, have a UFO crash that nobody wanted to talk about for years.
Yes.
That's pretty fascinating stuff.
Well, I was so surprised because I cannot believe that I blanked on the woman's name. She's somebody I admire a lot, and it's just slipped. But at any rate, that was the first time when I was in Phoenix. That's the first time I'd ever heard of that crash. And
yeah,
I'm not familiar with very many that had that level of evidence. Do you?
Right. I investigated a case that had to do with a different crash. It wasn't in Missouri. It was where the actual crash happened. I don't know, but the government moved the craft and the bodies and to a facility up by Minot Air Force Base in North Dakota. And the guy who was in the military, his name's Oscar. He was involved in with the security team that was called to be the security force when they opened this crashed craft. That was a case that I investigated. It was also from Missouri, but the crash was not here. So I'm not sure if you might be referring to
that
my
probably
involvement
is
in
it.
that. Yeah.
That probably is it. I just got them confused in my mind. But
yeah, that case it's the most extraordinary experience I've ever had as a UFO investigator, was working that particular case. It's got so much going on to unpack, and it's even more relevant now than when I first investigated it back in the 90s, just because it validates almost everything everybody's talking about these days and coming forward and disclosing. So it was a very, very interesting case.
Well, it's a very interesting time that we're living in right now. I'm part of the Scientific Coalition on UAP Studies, and when I start seeing some of the research that's being done, some of the knowledge base that's coming together to try to get the information kind of unpacked and understood, and how can this happen? How does this happen? It's very much the science based. It's not really experiential, but it's still fascinating to me. It's I just love this stuff. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I love every aspect of ufology, whether it's strictly science based. I love talking to experiencers. I love going into the history of cases. When I had a young man who kept trying to friend me on Facebook, and I don't usually add people I don't know, and certainly not back then, but he kept messaging me, and he kept sending me pictures, and it was of him always with Stanton and Kathy, and Stanton Friedman and Kathy Martin, and I didn't know him. Well, then I got a phone call that Jacques Vallée wanted me to interview him relevant to their new book Trinity that was coming out. So I read Trinity, and I saw that young man's last name. in the book. And I'm like, oh, I'd never heard of Trinity, which was pre-Roswell. And there were actually, Jacques wrote that book with Paola, and so I was just kind of like, this is so unknown to me, but there's so many cases that seem to have that same history.
Are you familiar with Len Stringfield's work?
Yes.
I was fortunate enough to meet him years ago and be able to spend a little bit of time with him. And he's one of those guys that, like, everybody's like, oh, there's Roswell, the Roswell crash. There's Kecksburg, maybe, there's just those few classics that everybody wants to talk about. And then Len goes, oh yeah, well, I've got really good evidence for like 35 more crashes that nobody's ever heard of, and you're like, what? He was such a fascinating guy. And it just goes to show you there's way more going on than meets the eye or that most people know about, or even folks in the UFO field, for years didn't know about a lot of these things. Yeah. So it's one of those little Pandora's box kind of thing. You take a peek in there, and then all of a sudden there's just this tremendous, wealth of things going on, just coming out all at once, all over the place.
And there's so, like you said, there's so much, and people just don't even, because they do a very good job of disinformation and just plain hiding things too. But it's a little harder to get away with that at this point in history. I think it is.
It is. It's the people who are coming forward and speaking with authority and confidence before Congress, on TV, the politicians, the military folks. It's unprecedented. It's nothing like this has ever happened before. And it's sort of like there's no going back now. The way I put it is, even what's happened so far, and we're not there yet with, full disclosure or whatever, you can't put this cat back in the bag. We've got to see it through. There's no other way. So that's very exciting to us UFO people.
Yes. I love this. I did not anticipate this when I first, I guess, I knew about the Roosevelt group, right? The Nimitz of the Atlantic, right? That was a really big deal, but nobody really talked about it because there was still there was still operational control more so than there was with Nimitz, because that involves so much. But with the Roosevelt group, another carrier group that was operating in the Atlantic out of Jacksonville, they were going up, and they had similar experiences to the Nimitz, and with craft approaching fighters and everything being very dramatic. And I heard one of the flyers from the Nimitz group talk about how, as they go through the DC corridor when they're doing operations there, that they know that there are craft there, and it makes them very concerned because it's a safety issue,
Right.
And that's now become much more public for our air fighters, because they are being put in some level of jeopardy. But now we can talk about that.
Right.
They were talking publicly about that, and fairly publicly. It was in a conference, but it's just so bizarre that for all these years, it's been pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. And
Right.
now that curtain's pretty much yanked back.
Yep.
They keep trying to slide it back, but it still gets ripped back. And it's out of the bag.
Yeah. It's like I said, we're not gonna be able to put this cat back in the bag. So God knows what's gonna happen. But it's gonna happen one way or another, it's like, hold on, buckle up. It's gonna change many things on this planet, and I think it's gonna happen pretty soon. I think that full on disclosure, like everybody knows, nobody can deny that aliens exist and that they're here, is going to happen by about 2020 or 2033, maybe. That's my guess. There's a fair number of people that think it's going to happen much sooner, like this year,
Yeah.
next year. I'm
think
not
it's going to
convinced
have
of
to.
that. It's a slow process. A lot of things have to happen for it to happen, and
Yes.
it takes about 10 years. And so we're a good 6 or 7 years into this process. So it's going to happen pretty soon, I think. And
Well, I agree with you. But what do you think it's going to take for it to be definitive proof?
well, that's a good question, because and are you going to be at the conference, by the
I
way?
am. Yes.
Okay. You might. I'm not gonna give you a spoiler alert, but my opening remarks are going to address this
Mhm.
issue, and it's going to be maybe a little different than what most people are saying about what disclosure is going to be, what that's going to look like. But the most prosaic answer to that question is that everybody walks outside and looks up and they're seeing ships, like they're everywhere. It's not just the proverbial landing on the White House lawn, because that's the White House lawn. There's a lot of other political centers around the world, and nowadays anything can be faked. It's got to be and it's got for the masses. It's literally gonna, I think it has thousands of ships in the sky visible to everybody. And then
I think that's going to be such a panic.
could be.
I mean, because there's so many people who are not going to be able to deal with that, because for whatever motivation they may have, that's going to be, for them, instead of being a beginning, that will be an ending in their mind and their belief system.
It's going to be, you're right. People will have to decide how to fit it into their lives. And some people are going to absolutely freak out, and others, like us, will be jumping up and down going, yay, finally.
Yes.
Now, I think we can make the assumption that the leaders of the world are going to try and walk into that situation. They're not just going to go, oh crap, today's the day they're all going to show up. So there might be that proverbial landing on the White House lawn or at some military base, and some official meeting between the aliens and military or political officials, of leaders of some kind, and that's televised. And that might happen a bunch of times around the planet with different leaders, but again, anything that's on television can be faked. You're going to have to walk outside and look up in the sky and go, oh my God, Forrest was right.
I will be sure to say Forrest was right.
I'm going to have that put on my tombstone, by the way. That's what I want put on my tombstone is, I told you so. That's what
There you go. I told you. Yes.
Right.
But my husband will understand the inflection.
Right.
But the most interesting thing is that I have seen a crap. Like, I was just minding my own business, and I was just, in a hammock, chilling out. And it wasn't it was in a cloud, but it was a really weird colored cloud. And I did not know that was a thing at the time. So I was on the phone with my daughter, and I was like, don't hang up. Even if you don't hear me, don't hang up. Because I did not want to have a missing time incident, and then she would panic, and, she needed to know when it was done. And they usually seem to put you back pretty close to where you started from what I understand.
Sure. Right.
But it was very unusual and very unexpected. And I was just kind of like, okay.
How old were you?
I was about this old. but minus 20 years or so. Minus
Okay.
10 to 20 years. But, and it was just, I had dogs outside with me. I mean, it was just a summer afternoon when I was just laying in my hammock watching the world go by. Yeah, because I live near an airport, so I see planes go in and stuff. I love planes. But anyway, it was my color Kool-Aid. And I also lived near an air refueling wing. So I know what those look like. That wasn't that. And, it was just a very unusual experience that I didn't quite know what to do with, except just kind of clock it and go on, And I've had a couple of incidents where I've tried to file a report with MUFON and their system doesn't work. And so I called Steve and said, this just happened. And he was like, well, you need to file a report. I said, I am. I'm giving it to you because your system doesn't work. So here you go. And he really regretted giving me his phone number. But
All right.
but somebody needed to know, and I tried to follow the appropriate procedures and they didn't work. And I didn't want to be a loony bin when I saw him at another event or something and, come up and say, well, I this happened, and didn't get the proverbial, well, why didn't you say something? Well, because it didn't work. So if you see something and you need to file a report, pick up a phone and call somebody. MUFON has phone numbers. So if their system doesn't work, you can do that. But how long were you with MUFON, and are you still?
I guess I officially joined in in 1989, and then was state section director. Then I became assistant state director. And then when Tom Stoltz was the state director at the time, when he died, I took over as state director in 91.
Okay.
And then I was state director for Illinois until 2003, when David Marler took it over from me. Mm-hmm. And then David handed it off to what's his name? I know him well, but
don't you love it when that happens?
Yeah, no, I don't, because I
know, right?
We used to have a good memory. So yeah, anyway, so for good 11 or 12 years, give or take, I was the state director, and I hosted the symposium one year. That was interesting. So yeah, I've been, as far as MUFON is concerned, I was, involved with them during that period of time. And then I let my membership lapse, and Walt Andrus, and I were pretty good friends, and God love him. He kept my membership alive, even though I stopped sending him money for quite a long time. Yeah. And but I'm not officially involved with that organization at this time. But MUFON is, they're the biggest civilian organization out there in the world, and they do really, really good work. And
yes, they do.
I was happy to contribute to the organization in a way. I was on staff for a while as the computer specialist for MUFON, and I created the database for all of the paper records in Walt Andrus's garage to be transcribed into the computer for the very, very first time, so that we could actually start mining that data for real. So I'm proud to have contributed that to the world of ufology.
That's wonderful.
So yeah, I'm not an IT guy, but I was good with databases back in the day. So,
well, I am a playing with it gal. I am not, and that's not true. I'm pretty good with it most of the time, but probably because back when word processors were as technical as they got, I started taking classes on anything I could find to take a class on relevant to them, because my dad told me to. So it's been a fun ride with technology.
So
until it doesn't work.
When you saw the craft in the cloud, is that what got you started in the UFO investigating?
No, I I've often seen them, but that was the first time that one was in daylight that close to me, and
Okay.
it was just moving very slowly. And the only reason I knew that it wasn't just some sort of like a chemical cloud or something was because the it edged out of the cloud. The front
I got
came
you.
out, and so I if it had had a window, I could have seen the window, but it was. I mean, it may have been shielded, but it was all metal. And I was like, I don't want this to happen. I'm on the phone with my, telepathically. And I was like, I'm on the phone with my daughter. This is not the best time. And it just slid back into that cloud and it went across. There's a mountain on the other side of my street. And it went across the street and it just took the elevation and it didn't dissipate. It just moved. So,
Interesting. Very interesting. That's a great sighting. Anytime you see something like that in the
well,
daytime, it's awesome.
I was very surprised, but it looked like like an inverted pie pan, but it wasn't round. It was more
Okay.
elongated.
I got
So
you. Mhm.
it had the lip, and it looked like where there should have been a window, there could have been a window, but it was covered.
Okay.
So like a shield or something. But it was just really, it was surprising because the first time I saw something, I was in 7th grade, and my dad was a Special Forces Airborne Green Beret guy, and they had been out doing a jump. And so I knew what it looked like when they jumped out of planes and helicopters and whatever. And that night, there
Mhm.
was something in the sky when we were doing a barbecue, and it wasn't moving and it wasn't making noise. And my dad and his friends were like, "Oh, well, that's a helicopter." I was like, "No, it's not. I just watched you jump out of them. I know what a helicopter looks like." So I was 7th grade. I was a little mouthy, but it's never changed. But it was so funny because to a man, they looked at each other and they kind of grinned, and then they looked at us, the kids, and said, "It's a helicopter." No,
Okay.
but
But
thanks for
they
playing.
knew. They knew, huh?
They did
Yeah.
because they had these, like, when you're in on the secret but you can't tell the people,
Right.
and they're just kind of like, but there were lights outside. My sister and I shared a room. There were lights outside our window that night. So that was
So, have you ever dug into or thought about why seeing these things?
about why what?
Like why you're seeing these things?
Um,
Sorry, that might be
I
a
think
personal question.
it's not,
Okay.
but I think it's because I'm not somebody that's going to freak out about it because there has to be something smarter than us, right? We are
Well,
not always the sharpest tool in the
I
shed.
hope so. I
I
hope
know,
so.
right? But I don't feel like it's something that I mean, I grew up with a kid that was a Star Trek freak, right? And then I married one, and I kind of am one too. But I don't see any reason to just assume that we're the only game in town. And I never have because where where's the fun in that? Why would you know I'm a creationist, and why would you make all this stuff and only have one playground?
Well,
If you
yeah,
could do
especially
that,
as more and more we look out there with better and better tools and realizing that there's millions of planets out there that are probably like Earth.
yes.
It just doesn't even make sense that we're the only one.
No, it doesn't. And when you start looking, you know, we are getting tools. Like you said, we can see. And from, gosh, I guess that I was a fan of NASA from the first launches that they were doing, and that they were televising. And hopefully we're going to be at the Artemis launches some. And, David's already very fired up about, he already got me my Artemis shirt and all this other stuff.
Oh,
So
nice.
he's like,
Oh yeah, you
fired
gotta
up.
have swag. You gotta have swag.
Yeah. He's all about swag. I'm just like, just get me there. But, he was disappointed because we couldn't get in the primary seating for the launch for the first one. And I'm like, you can see it from all over. I don't care if we're sitting like, I just want to see it. And, because my stepdad was the craft that burned. My stepfather was on comms, and he just had turned his console over because the brass were taking over for the launch. And so he did not have the earphones on during that. But there was enough of it and that's always stayed with me.
Is that the Apollo mission that burned and killed Gus Grissom?
All of them, yeah. There were 3.
Yeah.
But that doesn't leave you. And he was not a very good person after that, but he was still trying to cope with a lot of that trauma. And different people deal with trauma in different ways, and his weren't very healthy. But it is what it is. So, but yeah, I would have tripped out over that too. I mean, really.
Oh, sure. Well, I was. I'm at that age now where, and I have young kids. I have 15-year-old twins. Even though, yes, I'm too old for that. Yeah.
I was too old for that when I had mine, and it's still
right. No,
that's a lot of work.
Wife 2.0 wanted to have babies with somebody she was in love with, and I just wanted to go to. So I have twin 15-year-olds, boy and a girl, and I've never been to Bora Bora. So you won that, right? So
well, there's still time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I made her promise. No matter how old I am, she'll roll my wrinkled ass down the boardwalk at Bora Bora, sooner or later. We were actually going to go this year. It's our 20th anniversary, but we're not going to get to. Yeah. So anyway, the point I was trying to make is that my 15-year-olds now are sort of fascinated with what I've experienced in my life. Okay. It's like, Dad, did you see the first, Apollo or the first space launch? Yes, I did. I watched it on TV because I was obsessed with that stuff when I was a kid.
Yes.
I watched every space launch. I watched them land on the moon. I watched them take off from the moon and come back. I saw every bit of it,
Yeah.
And stuff like, oh yeah, I remember the day I came into the living room and my mom and my grandma were crying because President Kennedy had been shot. I mean, it's like you start thinking about all these things that they're learning about in history class. There's like, oh yeah, I was there. Yeah, I saw him put the last piece in the arch that day. I mean, it's like, oh crap. So many stories.
But look at the things crap, because it's like, how on earth did I get here? But oh my God, because I was a kid when Kennedy was shot, but I remember sitting on the floor in our living room watching the funeral.
Yeah,
and
me too.
watching.
I remember the funeral. Yes.
Yeah, I do remember that, and it was. I think I remember the shooting, but I didn't see but a second of it because my grandma. I do remember the TV got broke all of a sudden, but but then I saw the funeral. But when I was 7, around in that period, the boy next door to my other grandmother was a Star Trek freak, right?
Oh,
so he had the Apollo capsule out in the yard. We went to the moon and back every day. And
yeah. So you made things out of cardboard boxes, right?
He actually had a capsule.
Oh, cool.
The jet capsule.
Okay.
So we had a real capsule.
I remember as a kid, we would get a washing machine box and we would make little handles and knobs and I always built time machines. That's
That's
what
so
kind of a
cool.
nerd I was whenever I was a kid.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have some interesting things I can share with you about Star Trek if you're interested.
Can I tell you one real quick, and then I want to hear all of yours?
Sure, absolutely.
That boy with the Apollo capsule
Mhm.
told me, all I want to do, I want to work somehow with Star Trek. I want to be involved with Star Trek. And I was like, cool, you do that. And I saw him one time when we were grown ups, and that was it. So I was talking to my daughter who wanted to be an actress, and nothing was working out the way she wanted it to. And I was like, and I knew that when I saw him that one time, I knew that he was writing for Star Trek, right? But I told her, I said, you have to stay with this, because let me tell you, this boy that I knew, Lee Shack, and he was like such a trekker, and he was just about everything.
Mhm.
And all he wanted to do was work with Star Trek. Well, that man now is writing for Star Trek Next Generation
Oh,
and
nice.
whatever is out now. I said, so don't you ever give up on your dream, because if a little boy from Gardendale, Alabama can go and work in Hollywood and do his dream, why can't you? And I'm going to tell everybody listening that, why can't you? Because how cool is that, though? I'm so proud
That's
of him.
fantastic. It's really fantastic. I love stories like that.
Yeah.
What I have to tell you, excuse me, what I have to tell you about it is, if you've heard this before, stop me, because I never want to be the old guy who tells stories over and over again, right?
I will stop you if I've heard it.
So, do you know where Gene Roddenberry got his inspiration for Star Trek?
I do not.
All right, you can look this book up. It might be a little hard to find these days, but you can find it out there. It's called The Only Planet of Choice. Okay. And in that book is about a group of, I'm not sure what is the appropriate term to use for what they were. It was a group of ladies. I think it was like 3 ladies, but the group might have expanded beyond that started receiving telepathic messages from beings in the universe. I guess that's the best way to put it. And so they started inviting people to like come to their group when they were doing this, because like, hey, you're not going to believe what's happening. And so people started coming to the group by invitation and getting this information that was supposedly coming from extraterrestrials that they were communicating to this group of ladies. Okay. And at one point, one of the people that got invited to that group and did attend with some regularity was Gene Roddenberry. And after that, he started writing all of the stuff about Star Trek, because his inspiration came from what he was hearing from these ladies channeling extraterrestrial consciousness.
Wow.
Isn't that fascinating?
That is fascinating.
So maybe there's more to Star
Trek. I had no idea.
That is maybe, more about what's really going on out there than, we all think. It's obviously fiction, right? Well, maybe there's some interesting truths written into that show, especially the original show.
Yes, the original. Well, there was so much. There's a lot that I thought was weird in the original show, especially for the time period. But it was so interesting, and the concepts were so novel, but I've never understood why anybody would think that we're the only game in town. I mean, big dog taking a nap decides to sneeze. Sorry. But he was snoring earlier, so that's better. The part that gets me is that if you believe that there is a creator being and that he only did this universe, then he's not very powerful, right? Because why would you stop if you he sat there and said, I like this. This is good. And then he rested. Well, it didn't say what he did after he rested. He probably went on and kept doing it, And I'm going to get letters about that.
I I I won't discuss religion or politics.
That's a good
Okay.
thing.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I will say this, that I think the truth, if you will, the real truth about what has happened on this planet, who we are, where we came from, what the creator being is or isn't, and how all these things have interacted with us down here. I think that when I don't think we've got the story right. Okay, we got part of it right. We have
Yeah.
interpreted it as best we can, but I think that someday the bald faced truth, and I wasn't trying to make a joke, will come out, and we will know all of those origin stories and all of that kind of stuff. And I think we're going to be very surprised how different it is, to what we think has happened. Is that putting it gently?
I actually agree with that because I don't have a problem with the creation story. I don't have a problem with that. But the fact that I got to listen to Eric Von Daniken like 4 or 5 times in one summer, and it was always a different lecture. And I was so enamored because he was a nice man. And it was interesting to listen to him. And he had pictures and he shared everything. He was just, he was a true explorer back when that wasn't really happening that much.
Well, his inspiration to people cannot be overstressed.
No.
The very, very first book I read on this subject was Chariots of the Gods.
Yeah.
And I've heard that from so many people. And what it did is, it's like if you read it, it's like, okay, there's a lot of stuff in there that may not be aliens, but there's a lot of stuff in there that, well, it probably is aliens. And it was so good at making people think about, what's really going on here. That doesn't make sense. He forced people to think about what's going on. And in his legacy, that's really what the show Ancient Aliens does.
Yeah.
Because those guys, I know some of those guys, and they are really good researchers. They really are, even though sometimes they say the craziest stuff. Okay. And it's a joke, that, I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens. They know it's entertainment, but the value of that show to me, being a UFO guy, is that they make you think about what could have been going on, even if you're like, well, it doesn't have to be aliens, but how did they move that stone? So, it makes people think.
Well, the coolest part of that is that, people, I'm sorry, my battery is trying to die on me and I don't even know why it's not plugged up. I was trying to make things work earlier, but we're not. So, but the most interesting thing to me when I listened to him, and it got to where, because I was pressed, I could be in front to record and other things too, were people would get so mad at him about his book. How can you, and he was like, well, the original book had a question mark at the end of my title. I wasn't saying these are gods. There's a question mark. So, I was just kind of like, okay. But, that's why, because he and Giorgio Tsoukalos are from the same village. And that had a lot to do with his involvement with Ancient Aliens. And, but when he physically went to all these places as a young man. He was in the base of the Great Pyramid. He was in the pyramid in South America that had the little rocket guy carved on it.
Chichen Itza, is it? Yeah.
He saw all those things as a young man.
Well, yeah, that was and I've always been somebody who I would say, get off the couch and get your ass out there and look for this stuff. Because I'll tell people, like, I've seen lots of UFOs, and they're like, oh, how's that possible? And I go, well, I don't sit in front of my TV and hope. I go, oh, there's a bunch of sightings in Pacific, Missouri. Well, again, I drive out there and I stay up all night looking at the sky. And guess what? You're going to see stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I do that. I mean, I'm a deck sitter,
Oh, yeah.
so my hammock broke, so I'm sitting on a chase lounge now. It's not nearly the same, but it's so interesting because I was just sitting out last night, and there's stuff that's just flitting around, and I was out because there's supposed to be meteor showers this week, so I was out trying to see what I could see, but it's fascinating.
Right.
What you will see if you
Those guys
look
get
up.
on a plane and they go out to these sites and they look, whether you want to go along with their conclusions or not. They are putting in the time, and they're not just looking at pictures and thinking about stuff. They're going out there and they're talking to people, and they're experiencing these ancient sites.
Yes.
And that's the thing is, I just think that, and I'm not saying this to criticize archaeology or archaeologists, but it's not an exact science. They take best guesses. They use science as best they can.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think if they're like weathermen, I think if they get it half right, they're lucky.
Yes.
Because the more you dig, you find out, like, oh, this doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit. And so now how do you explain it? And so I'm hopeful that archaeology will continue to evolve its theories to go along with what we're learning,
Yeah.
So,
Well,
I don't expect them to go, yeah, it's aliens, but sooner or later, some of this stuff is in fact aliens. And that's the thing, though, is like, do we want to know, does humanity want to know that alien races might have been interacting with ancient civilizations on this planet thousands of years ago and helping their technology and their knowledge, or using them as slaves, or whatever the purpose was? Do we want to get our minds around that being a truth? And a lot of people are, no, that's too weird. A lot of other people are, oh, that makes perfect sense. Right. Okay. So some of us are, like I say, we're not going to be surprised when the truth comes out.
It's going to be so cool. I mean, not all of us are nice. I mean,
right.
There's asshats everywhere. So, that's going to be the same with anybody else that you run into. And, it's just so interesting to me that people buy into the horror side of aliens as opposed to, well, they have to be pretty smart to get here because we can't do it yet. And, and if you look at people want this, a lot of people want this so badly. Look at the response to the comet, right? I mean, there you have Abby sitting there saying, oh, well, this could not possibly be a comet, and everybody else is hair on fire because he said that. And then, he got in, that was something. But, and then I'm sitting there talking to my friend who is a rocket scientist, and he's like, I'm going to have to see conclusive proof. And I'm like, okay.
So what does that mean? What does that mean?
Well, that is specifics on propulsion, specifics on this, that, and the other. And I'm like, well, okay. I'm not the person that can give you that, but I know that I see stuff all the time, and it's not moving like it's ours. I mean, I have my satellite trackers, and I have my Sky Guide and everything else that I'm using up there. And I'm like, I'm just looking. I like watching, I'm not going to call anybody down. I'm not going to do anything. Yeah, that was close enough right there off my deck was close enough.
Right.
And, that was, I don't want anything more personal than that because I don't want to have to explain something to my husband about why I was gone for a week. I mean, that's
right.
That would be
that's always an awkward conversation, right? And
right.
no matter what you were doing, you can only use the aliens abducted me excuse once.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's so funny because he knows. I mean, because he knows that I see stuff because I'll go get him. And I'm like, you're not going to believe what I just saw. I get really excited when I see something that I'm pretty sure is not ours, because of the the way it moves, how it moves, the trajectories that it takes off on, that kind of stuff that I don't know that we have something that can do that. But it's so much fun to do the what ifs and then to try to plot out what that would look like if it, and I think that's why I like doing these conventions because, well, like talking about ancient alien guys, Dr. Sam last year at the conference with his Bosnian pyramids.
Oh, right,
right. That was the first I had heard of those. And he's like, well, you should come out and work with me. I said, my husband's not letting me come to Bosnia right now. It's a little bit hairy out there.
Well, yeah, not a place you want to be.
Not right now. I mean, I barely got him to let me go to Belize, right? But and now he said he'll go with me next time, so that's a good thing. But he doesn't like to travel very much. But it's just there's so many things out there to be found because when Sam was talking about the pyramids, and he had like the light beam that was coming out of it and things like that. And I'm like, holy mackerel. Are you kidding me? He's like,
that was nobody'd ever heard of that before. No, it's so bizarre. I don't even know if the ancient alien guys knew about it. If they hadn't been talking about it. It was just fascinating. It was extraordinary. I'm so glad that Adnan got him here, to talk about it.
I mean, that was a great get.
Yeah.
And he was pretty personable too, to be, but I was really impressed with, actually, I was pretty impressed with all of last year. I love this conference. This is my favorite conference.
Oh, it's mine too.
That I go to. And
I can say, because I've been investigating this stuff since I was a teenager. What got me started was a sighting when I was 10 years old.
Did you see one land?
Yes, I saw a silver disc-shaped craft land in a farm field about 100 feet away from the road where my best friend and I and his parents were coming back from like an all-day barbecue on the Illinois River, just north of St. Louis near Pierre Marquette State Park. And we saw this odd light moving around, and his dad pulled over, and we got out of the car to see what it was. And it was a disc-shaped craft landing, in this field. I watched the landing gear come out, and I watched it set down in the field. And then his dad freaked out like I've never seen a grown-up freak out. And they pulled me back in the car, and the way I like to put it is that's alien technology caused that Nash Rambler to exceed its design capabilities, because he floored it. He was so scared, just flying down these little country roads up there in that river valley. And then he never, until his dying day, allowed anybody to speak about it in his presence.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that's what got me started. And because I've always been a science nerd. And like when I went to college, originally I was a physics major, and I chose that major because I wanted to figure out how these things flew. I wanted to research anti-gravity research. Okay. And so that's how I walked into the phenomenon. But by the time I was a teenager, I was buying books and researching this. And I gave my first lecture at a UFO study group here in St. Louis when I was 18
Wow.
on detection methods and propulsion theory. So,
Oh, interesting.
yeah. So I've been fascinated with the gravity research my whole life. And I think there's been some really interesting things happening with it over the years. And, it's still like probably my favorite thing is how do these damn things fly, Yeah. And so yeah. And that, as it turns out later, if you really want to get weird for a minute. So now I'm investigating UFOs most of my life. Okay. I'm also a certified hypnotherapist. I took that training to be able to help witnesses recover memories. I don't care if you bite your nails, you want to stop smoking. That's not why I did it. Right.
Yeah.
So I wanted to help people recover memories. And so as part of my process, I realized, well, if somebody told me they saw a flying saucer land in a field, first thing I'd ask them is, what else happened? Right. I would assume that they got taken. Okay. Just from what I know. So I asked a buddy of mine who's a psychologist, trained hypnotherapist, and is also into all of this stuff. So he knows the whole situation. And I said, I want you to hypnotize me. And I want to go back to that night when I saw that thing land. And I want to see if something else happened because I remembered nothing.
Right.
Okay. Nothing other than what I told you. Okay. So I told him specifically, I want you to go back to this night when I was 10 years old and I saw this thing land in this farm field near, Pierre Marquette State Park. Hardin, Illinois is another town that was right across the river. I gave him all these details. I said, go right to that. That's what I want to know. Okay. So he didn't have to worry about leading the witness because I told him exactly what I wanted. And then he hypnotized me and he said, go back to that time when you were a kid and remember what you need to remember. Right. I was like,
right.
Well, I came out of hypnosis. I wanted to slap him, right? Because he did it right. Okay. But it's not what I wanted him to do.
Right.
But what happened was I went into what's called a full reliving regression of something that happened earlier that day in the middle of the day in this farm field next to where my best friend's uncle's clubhouse was, where we were having this picnic. Okay. And by the way, this is probably the first time I've talked about this publicly ever.
Well, thank you for that.
Where me and my friend are standing there in this farm field and we had some bottles out there and we're shooting our BB guns at them. And my friend goes, well, I'm going to go get a soda or a hot dog. I'll be back. And so he ran down the hill to near the river where the barbecue was going on. And I said, I'm going to stay here and keep shooting. And so I stayed in the farm field. And then all of a sudden, I look up in the sky and I see this craft and I am instantly paralyzed. So it's like, I can't completely act it out on camera this way, but it's like I went completely stiff, my arms straight, my head flew back like this. And I was just looking up into the sky and I couldn't move anything but my eyes. Okay. This triangular shaped craft flew overhead, maybe 100 feet in the air, and went over and came down and landed in the farm field, maybe about 75 or 100 feet away from me. Okay. And as soon as shortly after it landed, I'm still paralyzed. I can see it over there. These two disc-shaped craft, they flew overhead like this real quick and stopped. And the triangular shaped craft lifted off of the ground and went pew and just took off like in a flash. One of the saucers went pew after it. And the other saucer came over and landed in the farm field close to where that triangular shaped craft had landed. And it opened up and these two beings walked out of the opening on the craft. And but as soon as the triangular shaped craft left, I was no longer paralyzed. Everything was okay. And the two beings walked out of that craft were completely human in appearance, wearing tight fitting jumpsuit kind of thing, and they were very familiar to me. Okay. Like I knew who they were. Okay. And I had gone through a lifetime from age 10 until I want to say that hypnosis session happened in like 1997, 98. I'd gone that whole time with no memory whatsoever of that experience,
Wow.
even with all of the things that I know about UFOs never triggered that memory. Because, there's people that have just seen Whitley Strieber's cover of his book and it just triggered
Yes.
these memories. So I'm very familiar with all of that. I had no trigger of that memory. And I was in a full reliving regression under hypnosis. It was happening again. I could feel everything and smell and see it. It was just like it was happening again whenever I was under hypnosis.
Wow.
So yeah, wow. It's like I came out of that. And actually, you usually don't come out of hypnosis. Like they count you out,
Right.
I
You popped
I
out?
I popped out and just sat straight up in the bed. And I was just like, oh my God, what the heck just happened? Right. So
So
yeah,
you were aware.
What? I was
You were
aware.
aware through your hypnosis.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I've
Wow.
had some weird stuff go on, but that's
That's
how
so cool, though.
it was. Yeah, it was because it was, and to add to the story, later that day was when I saw the thing land in the field. Well,
Mhm.
and I remember when I can remember that like it happened yesterday. I remember I wasn't afraid. I wanted to go sit on the little hill right there and watch it and see what happened. And my friends were just freaked out, like my friend's dad,
Yeah.
And well, the reason I wasn't afraid was that was the same one of those craft that came down in the middle of the day. It's like I
You
knew who
already
they
knew.
were. Yeah, I already knew. So that landing wasn't for me. It was for them. So now I've got people that can corroborate that story for the rest of my life.
Wow.
And they did. They did. I ran into my friend Jim years later after my mom had died. He came to the funeral, hadn't seen him in years. And he walked right up to me and he sat down. First thing he said was, "Sorry to hear about your mom. Thanks." Remember that thing we saw when we were 10 years old that landed in that farm field? And I was like, it was the first thing out of his mouth. So I was like,
Wow.
yeah, I kind of remember it. It kind of changed my life, right?
A little bit.
A little
A
bit,
little
yeah.
bit. Holy smoly.
Yeah.
Well-
So, and that's one of many weird things that I've seen other craft. I've had other
Yeah.
weird things, but you talk about like, well, I didn't want to be abducted. This was different than that kind
Yeah.
of thing. Yeah. So
Well,
yeah,
do you
there's a
wish
lot
that it
that
would
I'm
happen?
saying. What's that?
Do you wish it would happen again?
You mean the friendly craft come down and visit?
Mhm.
It doesn't have to. I know it doesn't have to. Like then it had to happen because it was part of me remembering things. Okay.
Yes.
And so, but it doesn't have to happen now because I know if they come down now, I'd like, sure, come down and get me. Let's get out of here.
We're living in a crazy zone.
Yeah.
But because I wonder sometimes because of the things that we see, the actual stewardship of our planet isn't going well. And it hasn't, since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. But I wonder sometimes if that's why maybe there's so much activity at times. It seems to fluctuate.
For you. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Mhm.
And so it just makes me wonder if there's not something relevant to me, it seems more like physical science kind of things, not necessarily behavioral things, but I don't know. I don't know what their priority would be.
Well, I think that it's way more complicated than we can imagine, really. I mean, just from my own research, there's way more than one type of alien or entity
Yes.
or group down here, like way more. I mean,
Yeah.
the number I couldn't even forward a guess. Just my research, I would say is like 18 or 20. That's just for the small number of people that I've worked with over the years. You get people like, Bud Hopkins and David Jacobs and some of these guys that have worked with 10,000 people, you know, you hear numbers like, well over 100 different civilizations down here.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are tourists. Some of them are, want our resources. Some of them want to make babies with us. Some of them want to control us. Some of us love us and want us to do well. I think it's all of the above. And that's what makes this thing so hard to get your mind around.
Well, it is. And, it's, but we have that many different types of personalities here.
Yep.
Yeah, and different people want all of those different things.
Mm-hmm.
We're not lockstep as humans. We don't even necessarily all have the same values. So
we don't. I'm an eternal optimist. I can tell you that. And that doesn't mean I always. What's that?
It kind of shines through in your personality.
Thank you.
This is our first time to have a conversation like this, but I've been around you and I observe people because I like that. And you're very positive and you've got a really good energy. So,
thank you.
Well,
I truly believe, and I don't use the word belief that often because I'm a scientist at heart. Okay. I want proof also. So when you say belief, that means, you're taking some truth without any proof. Okay, whatever. Okay. I'm not going to argue that point. It's just, I feel, I'm convinced, my intuition tells me, how's that?
That works.
that everything's going to be okay. I think it's going to end up better. And part of what's happening now, I think, is that the only way that we're going to change how we behave with all these socio-political issues that are coming up now in the world, they have to be pushed to the surface and shoved into our faces in the most horrible way, so that we as a society, as a humanity, will look at these things and go, no, that's really horrible. And we don't want to do that anymore. Yeah. And I think we're going to come out the other end of all of this crap in a much better place than we ever have been on this planet before.
I would agree with that.
And right now, there's a bunch of people out there going, oh, now I know he's crazy.
No, because, nothing is easy because we're humans and we all have our own opinions and we all know what those are. So, it's just one of the things that we are not mellow beings. We are not mellow beings. And it's just that you just have to have faith, confidence, whatever, that this isn't the best that we are. There's evolution of all kinds. There's physical evolution, there's spiritual evolution, there's psychological evolution, there's maturity evolution. And we're kind of in the middle of growing pains of all of that. So, we didn't die from adolescence. I think we'll be okay here. So, adolescence probably should have taken some of us out, and it actually, sure did. But it's, it's not easy being human because you want to be right and you want to have everything your way, and we're very egotistical beings, and and that's how we're made. Very few people, there's maybe two people I wouldn't say lived by their ego, and they would tell you that they did. So, it's fun to watch that because it is funny because they're people I know personally, and I think that they are, little Gandhis walking around, and they're like, oh, nope. So at least they can be honest. So I think that I think you're right. I think we may have to go through some severe growing pains.
Yes, I'm no argument there for sure. Horrible growing pains. Overall, I think that there is a plan in motion here, and that the light, the good, whatever you want to say, is going to prevail, and we are going to end up much better people than we were 20 years ago, 100 years ago, 10 minutes ago, for that matter. Well, I don't know. Yeah, like a year ago. Yeah.
Well, it's just a matter of it is a matter of patience and understanding and compassion, and with a little bit of not taking any crap added in there too. And it's hard. Growing pains are hard.
Mm-hmm.
Look at adolescence. Look at getting the bone growth things, and not to mention the emotional and that side of it. Growing is hard.
Well, and the kind of growing that we're going through is particularly hard because it requires a fair amount of self-examination and self-truth. Yes. Where you can't just look at the world and go, God, I hope it gets better. You have to look at yourself and go, oh, I've got to change the way I think and I feel first and foremost. And if enough people do that, then the world changes. But you can't blame, we've spent so much time up until now just blaming everything on everybody else, everything else, every rule, government, everything. And we got to stop that. We got to stop that. We've got to focus on ourselves.
You do have to take personal responsibility for your own behavior. And, I sit back and a friend of mine is Geishla. He's a Buddhist monk. He teaches up in your neck of the woods now. But he's pretty amazing. And he looked at me one day and he was like, what is your philosophy? I was like, well, how do you mean that?
Yeah, narrow that down for me.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. There's a lot there. And he said, what's your mantra? Oh, I was like, be the change you want to see. And he was like, I was like, that's a good mantra.
Yeah.
It's a good mantra. And that's what, I think if more people had that, then, and there I am, I'm being judgmental. See? But
can't help it. It's hard not to do.
It's a good thing, though. I mean, I like that. And because I used to be so reactionary, but sometimes I still am. I mean, but I tried really hard to just embody what I think is the best me and try to not unleash the wrath of Cat, in places.
It's hard. It's hard to do. Yeah. It's hard to do that every day, all day long. It's really hard.
Yeah, it is. But I think that that's what's going to, that's my personal thing. Other people have their things that they do and believe. But if you live by what matters to you, then I think you can affect change in different scenarios.
Yeah.
Or you can certainly affect your reaction to things.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's the hardest thing. It's easy to whip wisdom on other people that you've learned, but to live your own truth is harder, because we do have these emotional reactions to things. And if we, we're willing to pause and go, oh, I wish I wouldn't have reacted that way or felt that way, and just kind of self-examine a little bit. Then we get
Or
better
said
over
that.
time. Yeah. Or said that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a often blurter. So,
My mouth has gotten me in trouble way more than once in my lifetime.
but I will, and somebody got on to me for this one time. I do say when I'm wrong. I will say, oh, I just really screwed that up. I'm so sorry. Let's see what we can do to make this better. And I had somebody that was a boss get onto me for doing that one day. And I was like, well, what did you want me to do? He said, well, you could have put it off on, this person. I was like, that person works for me. And that wasn't their decision. And that's what I mean by I try not to throw people under the bus. Right. I just try to be
right.
But I think that's kind of what you were talking about when you were talking about, making changes, and because that was a big change in my philosophy, when I just was like, you know what, screw it. If I mess up, I mess up. I'm just going to take ownership. And I mess up a lot. I have to do that a lot.
Well, maybe that's all why we're all here is just to learn. Maybe this is just a big school, or a big prison.
That's probably it.
Yeah, or both.
There's movies about that, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we could talk about that for about another 2 hours. Just that idea.
Well, when I used to teach, I substituted in high schools, and if a teacher didn't leave a lesson plan, I always had Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in my bag.
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh, I love that. Yep.
And for years, there's hundreds of kids through this area that have never seen the end of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
I love the book, and I love the movie.
Yes. Yeah. The book is excellent.
Yeah. The book is not as good. I mean, the movie is not as good as the book, but I enjoyed them both.
Yeah. Well, it was high school kids, so I didn't feel too bad about that. But yeah, because if I was coming in, they always had the audio visual thing in the classroom I was going to, just in case. So, but I think that I want to hear more about how you got involved with the conference, and how do you love doing the emceeing, because you're really good at it.
Oh, thank you. I do love it. I do love it very much. And I can give you the sort of the short version of that whole story as well. At the time I was involved with MUFON. Like I said, the conference started in 88 or 89. And I was just getting back officially involved as a UFO investigator at that time. Basically, I did it when I was a teenager. Then when I went away to college, I got, uninvolved, and I got married. I had some kids, and then at some point I was like, I need to really get back involved. And man, I can tell you some of the weirdest synchronicities that happened when I decided to do that. We haven't even talked about synchronicities. Holy cow. Little messages from the universe that tell you, you're in the right place right now. So I got back involved, and then went down to the conference. I think the first 89, I think, was the first one I went to. So it would have been the second year of the conference. And it was the first year, like, there was a guy that started it, and then he handed it over to Lucius Farish in 89. And that was the first time that I went. And the very next year, Lou asked me to speak, and I spoke at 19 of the 38 conferences.
Wow. I
became one of, this is going to sound pretentious, but I don't mean it to, because I didn't make this up. I became one of the Fab Five, as we were called. So it was, Lou kept asking the same five of us back every year, another 3 or 4 people. And so that's why I ended up speaking at so many of the conferences, just because Lou, he'd call me up like in January and he'd go, "What are you going to talk about this year?" And I go, "Lou, I ain't got nothing. I got nothing." And he goes, "Oh, well, you will." And sure enough, something would come up and all of this stuff would sort of fall together and he would put me on the podium again. And that went on for 19 years straight.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah. So when he got sick, he asked me if I would, take over that role. And then the committee that was running the conference at the time, had been doing it for years, were, very faithful to Lou. And so I got sick. I said I would be honored to take that role. Because what's really funny about it is if you knew Lou was actually a very shy guy. He did not like getting up to the podium with a microphone at all, ever. And there were years where I would say, "Lou, I don't have a speech," and he's like, "I don't care. I'll pay you to come down here. I'll give you a room just if you do the panel discussion for me," because he hated running shot over the panel discussion because he didn't like being mean to anybody, but certainly not the researchers, right? And so it just became a joke. I said, "I don't mind being mean to my if they're misbehaving." He's like, "Perfect. Here's the mic."
It was fun.
So I had a lot of experience, public speaking. And so it was real easy for me to just, step into that role. And then when they had been doing it for so long, we're kind of tired. We've been doing this for 20 years, can we give it to somebody else? And Dolores Cannon's family is who we asked to step in because they do conferences all the time. So it was real easy for them. They knew how to do it.
Yes.
And so they took over the reign of the conference and then ultimately asked me to stay on as the MC, and I've been doing it ever since. So I love it.
I'm glad you do.
Yeah.
I'm glad you do.
Thank you.
So
As
I
not
think you
only
do
is
a
it
great job.
a great honor to do it for Lou, for the conference itself, but I totally love it. So
Well, it shows, because you can tell when somebody's having fun and they're, doing something they like to do and they're interested in what they're going to be, showing you, they're bringing people up. And you do that really well.
thank you so much.
And this is our first time to actually even have a real conversation.
Right.
So I'm so glad that you're here. And, I think that, can I put you on the spot a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
You have seen so many people come through this conference.
Mm-hmm.
This is my favorite conference to go to. And I've been to a lot of big ones and stuff, but this one's my favorite because of the proximity to the talent, as it were. I've the first year I came, my friend Chase was there speaking, and she used to be the host of Fate Magazine Radio.
Okay.
And we met at a ghost hunt in Birmingham at Sloss Furnace when she was doing a live broadcast from there. So that was a lot of fun. I didn't know that's the show she was doing, but we became friends and I got to see her, present there. And so, and that's the first place I got to meet Stanton Friedman, who was a phone and guest friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to actually meet there. Who has been probably your most cool moment person that you've gotten to bring to the public?
You mean to introduce as an MC?
Mm-hmm.
Or
just who have you? Yeah, pretty much. Who's been your aha moment at Ozark?
Oh wow, that's hard because I've met them all. To even think back of like, oh my gosh, I couldn't. If you held a gun to my head, I could not go through and tell you everybody that's spoken. I just don't have that kind of memory. But
But they're all so special too.
Yeah, there's a few that stick out. Okay, but I've met so many wonderful people.
Yeah.
that.
Well, I mean, we're not going to be dissing anybody. I just was curious as to
Right,
who was
right.
kind of your, oh, hey, you know.
Well, one of my favorite people for forever has been Linda Moulton Howe.
I
Okay.
like her
Her,
too.
her and I became very good friends over the years, and we would always sneak off and have the coolest conversations. Because, in case you don't know this, and maybe if in your audience don't know this, the real research happens after the speaker comes off the podium, and you go back to somebody's room, and you talk about the stuff that you don't want to talk about in public. Maybe
Yeah.
you share tidbits, and a lot of research gets knitted together after the conference over a beer, with people sharing these little tidbits that pull a lot of things together. And so I've always loved that aspect of the conference. And Linda and I have spent a lot of hours like that.
Yeah.
And one of the other people that I really, really enjoyed and we kind of had an instant friendship bond when him and I met at a conference we were both speaking at in Pensacola, was Jim Mars.
Oh gosh, yes.
Jim Mars was awesome. Him and I, we just clicked, and we had so much fun together. And some of it was pretty indignant fun, but he was just an awesome guy. He was an awesome guy.
Yeah.
And the other person that God rest his soul, I miss this guy so much, is Dr. John Mack.
Yes.
Dr.
I never got to meet him. I never got to meet him, and that is a regret.
Yeah, he and I also ended up having sort of a special bond, and I'm very proud to have had him befriend me. And if we were at the same conference, we would just go off in a corner, and it was one of those, like, he said to me, like, I like the way you think. Let's go talk about stuff. And I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? And I just had so much fun. That guy was so brilliant and had just really, insightful, thoughts on this phenomenon. He thought deeper into this phenomenon than anybody I ever met. So those are kind of magical moments for me.
Yeah, that's so cool. I do wish I'd gotten to meet him, because I just would have loved it. I'd like to have been a fly on the wall in some of his conversations. I mean,
he was just the most fascinating guy. He really was just a brilliant man.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I appreciate you being here so much, and I have had so much fun talking with you. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Can I say one more favorite person? One more favorite
Please,
person?
do.
And we're going to get to see her this year, is Debbie Cobble.
I love her.
Oh my God, yes. I love Debbie. Oh yeah, she's going to be there.
Nicest women.
Oh man, she and I are really good friends, and I'm so excited she's coming back.
I am too.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
I got to meet her in Phoenix, and it was such a crazy conference. We were bending spoons and stuff, and we didn't know we could do that. So that was so much fun. So now people hide their spoons when we go somewhere. But so it wasn't just us; it was a whole slew of people. But I agree with you. That is one of my favorite people, and that's one of my big draws too. I'm excited to see her again.
Well, maybe because I did this with her once. And Gene Robinson was another experiencer, friend of ours also, that was around years ago. We went ghost hunting at the Crescent Hotel with Debbie. She's very involved with a paranormal, ghost group, and one of her favorite people's coming with her. And I don't think it would take anything at all to get us all to go over to the Crescent and do some ghost hunting.
Well, I do that.
Yeah.
I love that.
You could, if you want to have me back, I'll tell you my ghost stories. I have some crazy ghost stories. Crazy ghost stories.
I do a show on Wednesday nights called Paranormal Experienced.
Well, cool. Just pick a date. I'm telling you what, I have had some personal experiences that are insane.
We will do that.
Yeah, and I might be overselling it, but I don't think so. I mean,
I don't care. I just want to talk to you again, and that would be. I didn't even know you loved that.
Oh yeah, and I got a bag full of all the gadgets, and I've never. Well, I took them out to the last couple of years. It was one of those things like I've investigated ghosts kind of off and on, but not like professionals, right? So finally, like 2 years ago, I just broke down and bought like, a whole bunch of the cool ghost toys. And I
Yeah.
played with them a little bit at the Crescent, but I haven't actually gone out and done and I told Debbie, I said, you got to come over here and take me ghost hunting so you can teach me how to use all these toys. And so this weekend coming up, that might be the time to do it.
Well,
So-
I'll bring some with me too.
Excellent.
So
Excellent.
we will do that. I went to Basin Park Hotel last year.
Did you?
Did some investigating. Yeah. So my best friend came with me
Mhm.
to the conference to help me with some of the interviews and stuff. So, and we had a great time. That's a pretty interesting place too. But I've never investigated the Southern Crescent or the Crescent.
Well, I have a few like sort of minor stories from there. Me and a couple of my buddies that always come down every year. We went there. We went through the ghost tour. We had a couple of weird things happen. I've got all kinds of orb pictures, from when we were walking around there shooting pictures. But I'll tell you those stories another time as well. I mean, they're interesting. It's like, oh, something
Yeah.
weird happened to you there. But
That would be
So,
so much
yeah.
fun.
well, it's a date. We need to do it.
Yes, it is. All
Yeah.
right. Well, thank you so much for being here. For everybody listening, thank y'all for being here. And, y'all are the reason we do these shows. We appreciate every bit of your support. So we are going to go. I will see you in Eureka Springs in a couple of weeks
Definitely.
with some of my ghosty gear. And
I'll bring
I
mine
will,
too. And I
I
know
will get
Debbie's
some
bringing
dates
hers.
I'll get some dates for paranormal experience for you to pick from.
Okay, excellent. I would love it.
All right. And everyone, thanks again. Namaste and good night.
Thank you so much.